Hi, welcome back to another episode of It's So Worth It, So Make It. Today I'm going to show you how to make a basic sweet yeast dough that you can use for lots of different things. You can use this dough for things like donuts, or cinnamon rolls, or sticky buns, or monkey bread. The list goes on and on. So let's get started. Here's what you'll need. Okay, now that you have your ingredients assembled, the first thing you want to do is warm up your milk. Now you're going to need a total of 1 3/4 cup of milk, divided 1 1/2 cups in one cup and another 1/4 cup in another bowl. Now the reason that you want to do that is because you need to get your yeast going. You take your 1/4 cup of warm milk and your 3 1/2 teaspoons of yeast and a pinch of sugar. Put them together, mix it up. Even the yeast gets happy when it's high on sugar, and what's going to happen? It's going to bubble up real big and frothy, and that's exactly what you're looking for. Now, a word about yeast. I use the instant yeast that you can buy in any grocery store. You can use rapid rise yeast, you can use cake yeast, you can use fresh yeast, you can use the active dry yeast. Now, the cake yeast and the fresh yeast are really hard for me to find in my area. In fact, it's so hard it's impossible. I can't find it at all. So I use the instant yeast. Now, you don't have to get it started like this. Instant yeast is intended for you to throw right into the flour mixture without doing anything else. But I like to do it this way because if you throw the yeast right into the flour, it's not going to rise quite as well as if you get it started this way. So I like to start it this way. So now that this is proofed, we can get started with our dough. The first thing you want to do is put your egg in the mixer, your powdered sugar in the mixer, salt, and your 1 1/2 cups of warmed milk. And make sure your milk isn't too warm. If you go to proof your yeast and the milk is too hot, it's going to kill the yeast and it won't rise at all. So just warm. If you can dip your finger in there and it feels warm to you, it's perfect. Okay, that just takes a few seconds to get started, and the next thing you want to add is your proofed yeast. And so just scoop it in. And I also love to bake bread, so anytime I'm proofing any kind of yeast, it always reminds me of when I'm making bread, and I love that smell. All right. Now we just want to mix that for a few seconds. And now that that's done, we can go ahead and start using our flour. Let's get it going. I like to add about half of the flour at first. And then when it starts to get really thick, you want to change your paddle to your dough hook because your paddle's not going to be able to knead the dough for you. You need your dough hook for that. After your dough has come together, it only takes about a minute to a minute and a half, then you want to let the machine knead it for 3 minutes. All right, our dough has been kneading in the machine for 3 minutes, and the next thing we want to do is add our 4 tablespoons of softened butter. Now, if you don't happen to have a KitchenAid mixer, you can do this by hand. It's not a problem. You can just use a big bowl and a wooden spoon, and then when it's time to knead, flour your board, dump it on the board, and go to work. I don't like to do a lot of extra work, so I made sure I had myself a KitchenAid ready to go. Here we go, adding the butter. And when we add the butter, we're going to turn it back on and let the machine knead it for another 4 minutes. All right, 4 minutes is up, and by that time, you will have a beautiful pile of dough in your bowl. And it just looks amazing. It's springy to the touch, it's soft, and that's exactly what you're looking for when the dough is ready. Now, the next thing you want to do is cover this bowl and put it in a warm place for about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how warm your spot is. I'm lucky enough to live in a climate where it's quite warm outside most of the year, And I have a little table right outside my back door where I can put things like this to rise. It takes about 30 minutes for me. Now, during the winter time, when it's not so warm outside, even here, I do like to put my dough to rise on the stove covered with the overhead light on, and it takes the normal amount of time, which is about an hour. So, put it in the warm spots, cover it up to make sure nothing can get in there, and start tasting it. And 30 minutes to an hour later, you will have this. And look at it. It's more than doubled in size, and it's springy to the touch and soft, and it's just gorgeous. And this is now ready for you to use in any recipe that calls for a sweet yeast dough to start. You can make cinnamon rolls, you can make sticky buns, you can make monkey bread. This is even really great if you want to make dinner rolls out of it or sandwich bread. Who's going to stop you? Not me. So please go ahead and enjoy this sweet dough. I know you're going to love it. It's so worth it, so make it. Thanks for watching. Bye.